Hey everyone, welcome to the Social 333 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bentley. Today, my guest, Chris Westfall. Chris, thanks for being on the show.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, one of the things that I do is I help people who want to go in front of investors. I help people as a pitch coach. So a big part of my business is focused on helping people to tell their stories. And that work with entrepreneurs has also led to a lot of work as a ghostwriter. So I'm also a writer for hire, and I help people to create books. Since the pandemic, I've been a ghostwriter on 10 books. And one of them was a Wall Street Journal bestseller when the Wall Street Journal did such things as this. Yeah. So it's been really interesting for me. My career is not something that my high school guidance counselor would have predicted, but it's all around helping people to access their stories and step into their authentic stories in high-stakes conversations or in the pages of a book or wherever the case may be.
Yeah, I was looking at your bio and like the pitch champion kind of spoke to me. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, how do you go about like doing that? How did you perfect something like that?
Well, I don't know that it was something deliberate that I did, but the pitch champion thing, it actually, if you can believe it, it came about on X. I saw a tweet that there was a contest to see who had the best elevator pitch or elevator speech in the USA. And an elevator pitch is the way that you introduce a person or a product or an idea. It's what everybody does on Shark Tank. It's a pitch, basically. So in this contest, you had to record a 2-minute video and get votes online. And so I thought, well, I'll try it. You know, what the heck, right? And so I recorded a video on my front porch, 2 minutes long, put it out there. And I came in second place in the voting. Yeah. So I was like, well, you know what? I tried. But the people that put together this contest, one of them reached out to me and said, look, we've watched all the videos and we're going to do kind of an American Idol thing here. Second place in the voting, but first place with us. You are the National Elevator Pitch Champion.
Wow.
And that was when everything changed. And your original question, how did you get there? The best answer I can give you is, I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, it's interesting sometimes what you discover when you just kind of put it out there. When you say, you know what, I don't know what the outcome of this is going to be, but I'm just going to try. And in my past, I mean, I've worked in sales jobs, and I've always been in front of the public and talking with people, and things like networking always came easy to me. So I thought, well, you know, why not try it? And here we are. And Chris, everything changed after that recognition. Everything.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about Shark Tank and getting people prepared for that. I know you get people prepared for like TEDx, or is it TEDx? TEDx talks, right? Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that stuff, because I'm an entrepreneur. I love that kind of stuff. And then if I can get in front of people, it's even better, obviously, because, obviously I have a show, right? But but just getting in front of people. But I think a lot of people have their idea of a pitch, and maybe it's not really what's needed. And I watched lots of Shark Tank, obviously.
Sure.
Big fan. I haven't watched it in many years, but I was definitely a fan in the beginning. Talk to me a little bit about that, like, and what you've coached and like who you've coached, not necessarily names, but like how you've kind of helped a little bit. I'm not giving away nuggets or anything like that, but just some help to like maybe somebody that's looking to hire you as somebody that needs help with their pitch or needs help with their sales.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think the real question around what makes a good pitch is it's all in the way that you look at it. And the way that I look at an effective pitch is that it's a conversation. I mean, if you think about it, every pitch on Shark Tank, every pitch where anyone has ever won or lost, I mean, the winning or the losing, it happens in the conversation. And the pitch simply sets up the conversation. And so that's the way that I look at a pitch is what if it can be a conversation? And what trips people up is the pressures that we put on ourselves about what a pitch should be. And, I have to use my pitch voice or, whatever that is. We step into this kind of persona instead of stepping back and being the person that has an authentic solution and has a service to offer and has an insight to provide. And from that place, I think that the idea of a pitch gets easier because nobody wants to be pitched, but everybody wants a conversation. And that conversation that focuses on, I'll say it as your listener, you could say it as your audience, your client, your customer, focusing on them, focusing on their needs. And that may sound strange because often when you're asked to pitch, people say, well, tell me about yourself, or tell me about your business, tell me about why I should invest in you. And the thing that I've discovered is that the sooner you start talking about the person that's right in front of you, when you start talking about the puts and takes and the needs of your investors, or to extend it to homeowners or to clients or to customers or whatever the case may be, right? When you start talking about their needs, that's when the conversation really gets interesting. And that's when the pitch changes from trying to sell something to trying to serve someone at a deeper level. And in my experience, when you access that kind of service, that's where the juice is. That's where the gold is. That's where the revenues are. And you know this. It's not by looking at it at the conversation transactionally. It's by looking at it from the place of how can I help you? And when you're in front of the sharks and the stakes are high and the cameras are on, saying, how can I help you to see the value of this investment so that you can feel good about working with me?
Yeah, I think that's the difficult part a lot of people have with the pitches and stuff like that, is that I just have an issue with articulating their idea to someone else. Even if it's sales or anything, it's just they have just an issue. And a lot of people just do the and the duh and the stuff like that too, which is an awful thing. The easiest way that I cured it is just by slowing down.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just slow down before you speak, right? And pause is the easiest way I did it. I still come across it every once in a while, but at the same time, that's the easiest thing. Talk to me a little bit about not only that, but like your book and your writing. Because I know it all kind of interweaves itself, because you have to be good at writing to create a pitch, and you have to be able to articulate where you're going with something within a certain amount of time. Because when you go into Shark Tank or you go into elevator pitch, like, you have to sell within that couple of seconds, or like, that's it. You can't be like, I got this idea and duh, and it's in a garage and duh, it's like radar detectors, right? Like, and people are gonna be like, next, right? Or like, they'll whip out their phone and start looking at their phone after they're in the elevator, right? So talk to me a little bit about crafting, writing. I do a lot of scripts for my company, right? Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about not only the stuff that you've written in your book, but the creative and the innovative side of the pitches and your books and the articles.
Sure. That's a great question, especially when you talk about innovation. And I believe that everyone has a story to tell. Not everybody knows how to access it or wants to, but when we understand that our stories are places of service and something that we can share without hesitation, that's the place, I think, of true, authentic confidence. And the way to access that confidence, and this is probably going to sound pretty strange, but as soon as possible, you have to move into something that I call you language. And what I mean by that is this is going to sound like an English lesson, but it's making the second person first. And second person is you. So when you focus on that you, that person that's right in front of you, that audience that you're talking to, just from that fact, you take your attention off of yourself because you're focused on them. And when you take your attention off of yourself, I don't know exactly what that's called, but it's the opposite of self-consciousness.
Right. And
when we're self-conscious, that's when we stumble, that's when we fumble. But every human being knows how to help other people on some level, in some way. I can't fix the pipes in your house, I can't heal the sick, but I can help you to tell your story. And so when I focus on what it is that I know that I can do, and I put my attention on how can I help the person right in front of me from a place of caring, from a place of compassion, that's a relationship that I think goes beyond networking, because that's a conversation that can be transformational. And when you create transformation for investors, it can be a source of wealth as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
Talk to me a little bit about writing. So I've written a couple of books, ebooks, nothing fancy. I've written a couple of articles for Entrepreneur, Newsweek, all that stuff, and that's cool. it's cool to get it published. I think it's really awesome, especially when you're working with like the editors and stuff and trying to get it done. I know you've gone way leaps and beyond in terms of me. I mean, you're published, you got ghostwriting stuff. Now we kind of deal with AI, right? AI's kind of come into the picture. It was kind of always there anyway, and people were getting kind of some stuff through. Now they have AI checkers and different things. Talk to me a little bit about, because I know it works, but talk to me a little bit about your experience with writing, helping people write, and just like the entrepreneurial person that's maybe a small business owner or something like that can write about, I don't know, plumbing, right? Or something like that to help benefit their brand or their notoriety. I'm not talking about getting famous, just, try to help them with their sales. Like, talk a little bit about all that comprised in terms of ghostwriting. Like, what do you see not only for yourself or like writing a book, but in terms of just like writing articles for people, stuff like that, PR?
The thing that I look for in terms of what makes good writing is when the story of one of us can become the story of all of us. And what I mean by that is that when we write from a perspective that is universal, we can create a connection around something like plumbing. When you write from a place that says, have you ever been there? When your pipes burst, when you're traveling on business and you get a phone call from your wife and she lets you know that the pipe to the street has just broken and there's black goo in one of your bathtubs. An incredibly personal story? Yes, because it's true. It happened to me. Anyway, I was in Las Vegas when I took that call. It freaked me out. Anyway, $7,000 later, everything was fine. Anyway, that was a crazy story, but it's something that is, I think, relatable. And for good writing, good writers look in the direction of relatability. And I think that that's an area where AI is weak, because AI has the entire history of the planet at its fingertips, and it can do research faster than any human being ever could. But it lacks context. And what you and I have that AI doesn't is inside our chests, it's a heart.
Right.
We have that heart. And I think that for writers today, I think writing needs to focus on the very human aspects of the human experience. What is it like emotionally to take a look at the process, the product, the system that you are proposing, that you are trying to talk about? And when we enter the story from a human context, then that relatability makes readers say, "Tell me more," instead of going to TikTok and trying to find what's next. They're gonna stay with you because you're talking about something that we all share, and that's that human element. So when the story of one of us is the story of all of us, that's how you know you've hit it.
Talk to me about public speaking. So when I'm old, right? So I admit it, right? So when I grew up, there was no internet, there was no YouTube. I couldn't watch a video on public speaking or get in contact with you because I didn't even know that was a thing. I could just reach out to people on DM, right? It wasn't a thing. So back then it was pretty closed off. Like I had the library, right? And back then they had these courses. I forget the name of it now off the top of my head, but I can kind of see it in front of me, where you had these speaking classes kind of deal, and you go and it's almost like I hate to say a multi-level marketing, but I kind of feel like it is. You go there and then they teach you how to speak, and then I don't know, I guess you tell all your friends or whatever. I don't know, but I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but
that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, so they would have these you had to get better at public speaking, and you go do these things, and they have all these kind of some tips and tricks about public speaking. I've learned all this stuff, but you're at a podium or something, and you can make sure you don't wiggle around and do this or do that, or you can have lots of tricks where you can hold something up and have the words on the back of whatever you're holding up. There's a lot of tricks and stuff. What do you kind of see in terms of mistakes for public speaking, especially when you got one shot, man? I mean, it's
it's a lot. It can be a lot of pressure.
And you're betting the farm on this one couple second pitch and you're hoping like you can make it, and it's either like you make it or you're the laughing stock, and you got like a small little window there, and it's not even like, there's no grace, especially on TV. So like, tell me a little bit about public speaking on like the higher echelon. Obviously is being on TV, but something pretty small, maybe they're giving a presentation at their company meeting, or maybe they're doing something that's, I had to give presentations like every Friday about cases that I was doing when I was working for a corporate company. And even when I was with the government. But like, tell me a little bit about some stuff that you've seen a lot of. Don't give away the secret sauce, but there's some stuff that you kind of seen that you wish like people didn't do. And it was like very cringy and you're just like, oh my God, this is terrible, right? Like, give me some good stuff.
Well, the cringy stuff comes from the pressure that we put on ourselves, and it's true. It could feel like it's high stakes. It could feel like it's the free throw in the final seconds of the game. But when something looks impossible, the thing that we have to look for is how do we do the doable? Because if you want to create the impossible, you have to start by doing the doable. And when I work with clients as a coach, and I coach people that do TED speeches, and I coach folks that are, on television and that are social media influencers, political leaders, the thing that we focus on is doing the doable. And one of the things that always looks doable is the ability to connect with the audience. And again, that when we shift our attention to our audience, when we shift our attention to the puts and takes of the people in front of us, the conversation gets easier. And another thing that I think can really help is when you're giving a speech is 2 words. And here's those 2 words: permission granted. You have to give yourself permission to maybe get a little too far away from the mic or a little too close to it, or whatever the case may be. Nobody is going to rush the stage if you squirm at the podium. Nobody is going to, throw vegetables at you. But in our mind's eye, we imagine these worst case scenarios. When it comes to public speaking, it's never tougher than it is in your mind. And when we understand that our thoughts are not who we are, we can think about speaking in a different way. And when we think about speaking in a different way, we say things in a different way. So it starts with doing the doable. It starts with giving yourself permission. And it's counterintuitive, but you got to step away from all the tips and the tricks of how to stand at the podium and how to look at your notes. Because if you're doing that, you've got more and more on your mind. And when you've got more and more on your mind, you're going to speak like a moron. That's just how that works.
Let's talk about like the elephant in the room, though. Like, most people are just absolutely fearful of speaking publicly. What is it like? They much rather like some crazy thing. Like, they much rather like stick a fork in their eye than like public speak, which I think is ridiculous. Like, if you were to be like, hey Chris, like, we got 1 million people back there, they're ready for you to go speak, I'd be like, get me on. Like, what time do I gotta go? Like, do I have water? Like, like, I just check in. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I know it's gonna be bright. I know I'm probably gonna only see like the first couple rows. I know that like I'm gonna be in my element. My anxiety is gonna be high, but my adrenaline is gonna be running. So like, let's just run. Let's go. Yeah. And a lot of other people are like, whoa. I got to talk to 10 people that are on my team, that are in my cubicle. Like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to overthink it. I'm going to be fearful. I'm going to run these fantasies and scenarios in my head. Like, I know you got to come across this. Like, because you teach and you coach and you go to schools and talk. Like, what is it that somebody that's in that situation where they're just fearful, they have anxiety, maybe they run different scenarios in their head. Like, what can you kind of get to tell somebody to get out of their head, to feel comfortable? And I know it takes repetition, but like, what is it that you can kind of try to help somebody with?
It's often what we're forgetting that's causing us to be afraid. And a big part of my coaching work with folks is to remind them what they're capable of. And it sort of goes like this. We all have conversations every day. We talk to people one-on-one, or maybe it's a group of 5, maybe it's 10 people. And then you go, well, if it's 11, I'm going to get nervous. I need to have notes, or whatever your number is, right? But you know this as well as I do. I mean, a number is just a number. And that can be the number in your bank account or the number of people in the audience. And when you speak to people as a professional speaker, everyone in that audience should feel like you are talking to them individually. And you want to know the secret to that is to talk to people individually. I do this in front of large rooms. I mean, and you're right, the lights are bright and everything like that, but you talk to one person at a time. And the thing that is important to do, and this is going to sound crazy, but when you're speaking to a group, is you have to listen with your eyes. And I know that probably sounds like something on somebody's dating profile, but that's not what I mean. You listen with your eyes. In other words, when you are making a point with your audience, did they get it? And you're not looking for people to say amen or whatever, but just that kind of nodding acknowledgement that they're following along. That helps to give you confidence in the conversation. But so many times when people are feeling nervous, there's two questions that I ask them. One is, what are you forgetting? And the second one is, what is it that you are making up? And listen, I've had all the stories. People, they're going to rush the stage. They're not going to follow me. They're going to be looking at their phones, all these nightmares and stuff like that. But the key to telling a story on stage is to step beyond the story in your head and focus on the audience, listen with your eyes, and feel confident about your material. I had a coach that I worked with, and I've worked with several coaches over the years. It's part of what helps me to coach others. And one coach challenged me. He said, listen, you are capable of more than you realize. You can go in there and you can speak without notes, without a PowerPoint, and I think you should try it sometime. And I had an event in front of 12 vice presidents and C-level executives for a major banking company. And it was a workshop that I was going to do. And I walked in with 5 slides and 3 colored markers. And I didn't sleep the night before. Mm-hmm. I was a nervous wreck. But I wasn't talking about radiology or cooking or something I don't know anything about. That's not true. I do know how to cook. But my point is, I wasn't talking about some crazy cockamamie topic. I was talking about something that was inside of me, and helping people with leadership and communication. That was the topic. And by not walking in there with some rock solid agenda of 47 slides that I was going to go through, what that forced me to do was to focus on the audience, to listen with my eyes and to listen quite literally with my ears to see what was on their mind. It's the difference between coming in with a curriculum and saying, let me tell you what you need to know, and saying, let's take a look at what needs to be done. And that's a shift that anyone can make, and it looks in the direction of service. But you got to step away from what it is that you're making up and what it is that you're forgetting, to remember who you are, remember what you're capable of, and then those 2 words, permission granted. And you've said this, you've touched on this a couple of times. You got to do it. You got to do it. I mean, public speaking, communicating with people, pitching to investors, it's a contact sport. And I think that's also something that, you can ask AI a lot of questions, but I think being able to interact with someone in the room who's seeing you do what it is that you do and can identify what it is that's holding you back. Because speaking is not just the words that you choose. It's the way that you stand. It's the whole package. And I think that that's something where human coaching, particularly in the very human delivery of a speech or presentation, that's where I think it can really help.
Yeah, I've never had a coach for public speaking. I always wanted one. I had a coach for just speaking in general, so I can actually not mumble and get the words out of my mouth. So I have to spend, if I have what I'm doing right now where I'm speaking, I have to spend some time going through a list of words so I can loosen up my mouth, my tongue, and go through that. Probably like some people in the audience are like, what the hell are you talking about? But that's what I have to do. Like before I get on camera, even if I'm doing a video walkthrough at one of my houses and I'm doing it and I'm talking on camera, it's the same thing. It's just like it's a thing that I have to do in order to loosen up my tongue and my mouth and get it going. Otherwise, I just mumble to myself. I just sound like I got marbles in my mouth, and here we go. Talk to me a little bit, and this is sales 100%. Somebody that is persuasive versus someone that is needy. There's 2 different things. Because you could be very persuasive, hey, I want you to go do that, versus, hey, I really need you to go do that, right? So it's like, it's 2 different things, and I know it's voice tonality, which I'm kind of doing, and some hand gesturing, but talk to me about that, because when you're giving a pitch, you have to be persuasive. If you go on Shark Tank, you have to be persuasive. You can't just be needy. You can't be like, hey, look, I just need money. I got this great idea. We're going to build it in my garage. My mom's going to make me sandwiches. Like, give me the money now, right? Like, you're not going to get it, especially if you're like Mr. Wonderful, right? Like, you're not going to get that. Talk to me about being persuasive and not being needy.
Well, first of all, needy is creepy. And neediness in all of its various forms is not the spirit of a pitch. It's not about what you need. And you've seen this 1,000 times when entrepreneurs step up on Shark Tank and they talk about the salary that they're going to take out of the business. And the sharks are like, and they come for them. I mean, they're just like, wow, you can't do that. Why? Because you're bleeding the business. And that is a level of neediness that investors respond to in a very, very negative way, because you're asking them to make an investment in you, but it looks like you're not willing to make the same investment in yourself. And so when it comes to the difference between neediness, and I'll say the opposite of it, which is confidence, it's looking in the direction of what it is that you know to be true. And when you're speaking to investors, you want to be sure that you're focused on things like data, numbers, statistics. You're not saying things like, this product's awesome, or this is, and you're just falling into a trap, because adjectives will ruin an investor's day because they're cryptic. They're not well defined. And that's what investors are trying to do. They're trying to look and see, what is this thing really about? What is this entrepreneur about? Can I trust this person? Will they be a good steward of the cash that I may or may not give them? And in order to make that conversation meaningful and to create a relationship with an investor, I think it's vital to step into, and I'll call it your grounding. Your grounding is what it is that you know. Like, I know my name is Chris. I don't believe my name is Chris. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I know my mother loved me. I don't. That's not a belief. That's not a matter of faith or anything like that. And when we can speak about what it is that we know, when we speak about things that are inarguable, in other words, universal truths, that can be a source of confidence as well, because it's not a matter of opinion or faith or belief or where you grew up or where you went to school. It's just a fact, like the law of gravity. And when you speak with this level of certainty, it's not arrogance. It's simply understanding the way that the world works. And when you speak from that place, investors respond to it. Why? Because your pitch is starting to work for them.
Yeah, that level of certainty kind of brought up some memories. So I am very good at not only negotiation, but making things very crystal clear. And some people, they may think of that as maybe manipulation, which I don't think of it like that, right? I'm just trying to be as clear and concise as it is, right? So I had to do like some remedial classes in college. I went to Montgomery College. I couldn't make it to the university, right? Didn't have the scores. So I did that, and I had to go to English class, and it was during the summer. And summer classes are kind of like a joke, at least it was for me. Right. And not to put Montgomery College down or nothing, but it was kind of a joke. So you got a bunch of us young folks, like, and at the time I was drinking. So, like, I just got done, hammering some beer the night before. And I come into class, and nobody really wanted to be there. And everybody paid their bills to get there. And the teacher was being really hard on us and why we didn't do a great job or something. And I just raised my hand and I said, hey, and they're all, everybody's kind of hungover from the night before kind of deal. And I raised my hand, and the teacher's like, yes. And I was like, look, here's the deal. Like, we're all here. We all paid our money, and the college is paying you every day to come in. We all need to pass so we can get along on our journey to get to our wherever that is, whether it get to another university, pass, get a better job, whatever it is. And your job is to help us with this curriculum, get us a good grade so we can get to the next level. Since we're paying and you're doing your job and we have to do our job, which is sit here and listen, how about this? Like, if we show up every day and do what we're supposed to do, no matter what, If we bomb on all the tests, you still have to pass us.
What'd the teacher say?
She scoffed, looked around for a little bit, probably couldn't believe that somebody raised their hand and asked that question. And then she said, yeah, if you come into class every single day and you do what I ask you to do and nothing, you bomb all the tests, but you show up, I'll pass you. So guess what I did? I showed up every day. Sick, hungover, didn't matter. I showed up, passed the class.
There you go.
And just about everybody else passed too.
That's an awesome story. I mean, the takeaway from that is show up.
Yeah, I mean,
key.
it was just a level of certainty. I just was like, look, like this is it. This is crystal clear. Like we paid, you're doing your job, we're doing our job, we show up.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, your job is to pass us to get to the next level. So please do what you're getting paid for. Let's just do it. And I think that's the level of certainty that you need to kind of have when you get to any sort of, whether you're talking in front of two people or an elevator or whatever it is. Like, hey, look, my product is the best product. Look, like if you hire, I did an interview. This is another one I got, right? So I did an interview and I was broke. And back then, like, broke to me was like negative 20,000, which is nothing right now, really, to me. And I'm not trying to like be big headed or nothing, right? I'm just saying like it's just different. But back then I was down 20 grand. I just leased a brand new BMW. Business tanked, right? I bought a bunch of zip codes. I got delisted on Google. And I had nothing coming in. I was broke. I was eating eggs and bacon every single day. Didn't go out, didn't do much. I was just, depressed and at home. And this is before like I really believed in myself more and like was able to do different things. And I went to go to this job interview, and I've been to a couple different interviews and get a job. And, I wore like a custom suit, all the way, all the trim, like the pocket hanky stuff. And I was like, well, if I go out, I'm going out like a boss, like I'm going out like a G. I'm going to look good when I walk out and they fire me, right? Or, or they don't give me the job.
Yeah.
And we're going through the thing, and the guy's like, oh, like, what's your experience with Excel and the office? And I'm like, I'm okay. What is your experience with this? I'm pretty good at it. And then he's like, you can kind of tell when you're not going to get the gig, So, I see him like writing his notes and stuff. And he's like, okay, well, you know what? Like, thanks for coming. I was like, whoa. Look, like, I need this job and I need to be employed here. And here's the thing that I bring to the table. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the leader of this. You're never going to see me do this. I'm going to do this. Like, I will do this. I'll be the most positive person you ever met. I'll go out and support the company. I'll go do the most work that you've ever seen. Like, I'll do it the fastest you've ever seen. I'll learn as quickly as I can to get it done. I will be the man that you want for this position. You just need to hire me.
What did he say?
I'm going to talk to HR and see how soon you can get hired.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful. That's the power of confidence.
Yeah. And I was just like, look, like, this is it. Like, I didn't really want to. I just needed money. I just needed to support myself. But I was like, look, like, I'm tired of this. Like, I'll be the dude. I'll be positive. This is what you're going to get out of me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever it is. And like, let's go.
I love that. People say, why do you need to pitch? This is a perfect example. If you can't stand up and say who you are, what you're about, what you can do for others, and talk with conviction about your commitment to a cause, a product, a company, to yourself, to your own innovation, whatever the case may be. I mean, if you can't do that, life's going to be difficult. But when you change the conversation, and that's what you did. I mean, you stepped into a confidence that says, look, this is who I am. And you really kind of shifted the conversation from how good are you at Excel to here's what this company really needs. And I think that that's something in this era of AI and upskilling and, what should I really focus on, especially when it comes to interviewing and talking about what you can do for others. Say what it is that you know and focus on what it is that you know. And look, the future is always a mystery. Nobody knows everything, not even AI, right? And I didn't hallucinate that last one. Nobody knows everything, but there are certain things that we can say with conviction, like the law of gravity. I mean, I know how it works. If I drop something, I know what's going to happen. Doesn't matter what happened to me, when I was 9 years old at Christmas. Doesn't matter. I deserve that bike, by the way. No, that's just a crazy Christmas story. But anyway, but you know what I'm saying? It's not a matter of experience or faith or belief. It's simply true. And when we come to that truth about ourselves, we step away from that persona that's trying to pitch or give a speech, and we step into the person that says what it is that they know with utter and complete conviction. And that conviction is contagious. That's what gets people enrolled in ideas. That's what gets people jobs, and that's what helps us to connect with other human beings.
I think it's also great for leadership and groups, and like if you're doing sales and you just, come out with it. Hey, look, like this is where we're at. It's no different from, I played high school football, but it's no different from playing like, park football where you're like, look, like this is the route we're running. We're running this X, running here, Y, tight end, you're coming over the flat, and you run that and you're like on three, let's go. And that's the play you're running. It's not, hey, look, like we're going to throw the ball down the road and down the seam and see what happens. It's like, hey, this is what we're going to do. And I think that's what a lot of these leaders, especially with not sales, but a lot of these corporate leaders that never led before, like are really missing, is that like straight conviction of like, this is who I am. This is where we're going to go and let's go. And if you're not on the ship, like it's leaving at 9:00.
Yeah, I just wrote about this for a CEO that I'm working with from a European company, and he was talking about the importance of exactly what you were saying, and that is to be able to speak to people with conviction, with what I would call plausibility, which means like what you're saying is believable, just like the simple play, look, here's how we're going to do this. Understanding some things about business. Business is a system. Business is a process. And when we create that process in a way that helps people to see different outcomes, you overcome the challenge that every leader faces, and that is the naysayers. The naysayers go, well, how's this play going to work? How's this going to turn out? But leaders use words like because of my past experience, because of the way we've run this before, because of the way that other companies like ours have done this. Because is a very, very powerful word. And leaders use words like so that. We're going to run this play so that you guys can hit your bonus, so that you can get paid, so that you can perform at a higher level and have a sense of integrity and pride about what we're doing here at this organization. And helping people to see the bigger picture is key, I think for leaders. It's absolutely vital. And the ability to zoom out, because so many times when we're focused on the tactics inside the system, we're not able to zoom out. We're not able to pull back. I mean, imagine an artist that's sitting there painting a picture and they're 6 inches away from the picture. All they can see is their last brushstroke. They can't see the masterpiece or the piece of crap that they're working on, whatever it might be. The point is, you have to step back. You have to have the ability to zoom out. And I think leadership is about seeing that big picture. And whether that's a simple out route for a flag football game or a system for an organization, being able to express those ideas so that people can see a new narrative other than the negative one that's in their heads can be the first step. And it's not about manipulation. It's not about being a carnival barker or being like, step right up, you'll never believe, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. No, none of that. It's absolutely a 100% no hype zone. It's all about authenticity and speaking about things that are real and true and using that knowledge of the way things work to make things work for the team.
Chris, if somebody wanted to reach out to you and get some help with either ghostwriting or coaching or any of the services like the TEDx stuff or or Shark Tank, how would they reach you?
Sure. Well, the easiest way to find me is on my website, and that's westfallonline.com. And my last name, it's like the direction in the season, westfallonline.com. And if you go on my website, on the right-hand corner, there's a little, I think it says Let's Connect, but it's a pop-up window. You can pop it up, and if you want to set up a time to talk, I talk with folks. There's no charge for it. So if you want to, challenge me on whatever I've said on this podcast, or try to fix me, or, whatever, or maybe look in the direction of whatever would help you most, that's the button, and you can set up a time to talk via Zoom.
Awesome. Chris, thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thanks.